Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball, and we're down to the final four teams. The round of the final four, one might say. So, what we're going to do is the same as we've done through all the other rounds. We're going to make our predictions who will be moving on and squaring off in the national championship game. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
Final Four leads to some crazy matchups, and
You know,
I'm certainly really excited for it.
For
So,
once, I don't think you are ready because we're in uncharted territory. The Purdue Boilermakers are still alive. But before
hey,
we get to that game,
let's run it.
let's run it. We're going to start off with UConn and Alabama. But before we predict that matchup, first, how these two teams got there. UConn put an absolute shellacking on Illinois. UConn playing arguably their worst half of basketball all season, and they still led by 5 points going into the half. Illinois thought that, hey, maybe we had a chance. Won 30-0 run later, and one Illinois dry spell where they didn't score in 50
Dry
minutes
spell.
of real time.
That's a beyond stretch calling that a dry spell. That's like if you put a desert in an air fryer.
Yeah, they did. Okay, for lack of a better term, let me just put it bluntly. They did not make a shot for a very, very long time, and UConn made many shots in that time span, absolutely blowing them out and winning by 25. Um, this is what happens when you wake up a sleeping giant, and that's exactly what UConn is. They're a well-oiled machine. I said it last round. They're the best team in college basketball, and it's not particularly close. And this is what they do. They roll teams on their way to the national championship, and who's going to stop them? I don't know.
Well, they only got one more team in their way, but in this matchup, like I think the thing that was the most interesting to me was the way that Illinois chose to try to attack UConn. I think they really didn't choose to attack them in the right way. I mean, obviously, it didn't help that they just did not shoot the ball well in general. Because what they needed to do was at least shoot the ball well, because it's going to be very difficult to attack Donovan Clingan inside, and that they proved that. But I mean, when it came down to it, I was not expecting Terrence Shannon Jr. to have his first massive off night in quite a bit. I mean, he didn't even get double digits. Marcus Damask still looked great, but he was literally the only one. So they weren't hitting shots. They weren't playing the type of offense that they wanted to play, and part of that was because UConn didn't let them.
And now I'm the one that, geez, dude, you're being generous. That is very nice. Not hitting shots. I mean, this
They
is
didn't.
when it
It's the
all came
truth.
crashing down for Illinois.
Yeah.
It was an excellent run. Nothing to be ashamed of. You ran into a brick wall, especially in that second half.
They played great basketball up until this game. I mean, I was really impressed with Illinois in this tournament, but
Mhm.
just like you said, the wall not only stood firm, but this wall got hands.
This wall got hands. These hands hit hard, and they delivered an absolute knockout blow. And on the other side, Alabama taking down Clemson. Thank goodness, because if Clemson went another round, I think I'd lose my mind. Alabama winning by 7 points, 89-82. But I have to give Clemson a lot of credit. They hung with them. They battled hard. They had some really big performances, like from guys like Joe Girard, PJ Hall fouling out early didn't help.
Yeah.
Shefflin stepped up in a big moment when they needed a pinch, but how are you going to overcome Mark Sears going absolutely ballistic in the second half? He put
He was
on a
off
clinic.
until he flipped that switch. And then once Mark Sears flips that switch, it is incredibly hard to flip it back off
Good
because
luck.
he was not playing good basketball in that first half. And then all of a sudden the three started falling and he went from being a low single digit scorer to ending with 23 points. But that's what a guy like that can do. He is one of your, the definition of your microwave scorer. When he gets turned on, watch out because whew, that man could shoot.
It was impressive. When it rains, it pours, and it poured for Mark Sears. But, for Clemson, I have to tip my cap. Did not think they were going to make it out of the first round, much less, be a step away from the final four. we didn't really like their metrics entering the tournament, and they definitely proved us wrong. Clemson among other teams, there are a few others that are in that conversation, but hey, good for them. So in this Final Four game of UConn and Alabama, Tim, I'm going to start with you. Who do you have?
I mean, I would love to try to predict some type of crazy upset, but I mean, we've seen the way that Alabama has won these games
You've already
against teams
lost.
that
You don't need to
are
do any more chasing. Just pick the right
no.
game. Just pick the right team.
I mean, there's to me, there's no way that Alabama can put up any amount of defensive effort that can even remotely slow down UConn. I would be surprised if UConn scores under 40 to 45 in either half, unless UConn is up by so much in the second half that they take the foot off the gas and put in the bench warmers. And even they might still be able to do it against that
Dan
Alabama
Hurley's
defense.
kid.
Literally.
I mean, he got in the game against Illinois and he got an assist. So that's something that he'll always remember. But you said UConn, right? That we're making that
Absolutely. I
abundantly
mean,
clear. We're making.
there's
I just want to set it in stone that we're both hammering UConn, and that's you're absolutely right. The biggest thing here. How in the world is
there's no
Alabama's
line of
defense?
logic. There's no line of logic where I can come up with a game plan that Alabama plays, or even a game that Alabama is able to control where somehow they come out on top, unless they literally shoot like 80% from three and Mark Sears goes for 45.
Yeah,
And even then they still might get outpaced by UConn's offense if they're playing that fast.
Alabama's going to have to go absolutely bananas, and their defense is going to have to do something that they haven't done all
Pretty
year,
much all
much
season.
less all. They have to stop somebody, and they're not stopping this offensive juggernaut that is UConn.
I'm not sure if stopping anybody is in their vocabulary.
Mm-mm. And UConn's a train, and Alabama's right on the tracks. We both have UConn moving on, so that one I think is relatively easy to say right there. But on the other side, the much more
This one is going to be
intriguing
the fun one.
matchup. Oh
I'm so
boy.
excited.
Before we get to your choo-choo trains, we're going to talk about Duke and NC State. NC State does it. They survive in advance. This run, arguably more impressive than the run that they went on in 1983, despite winning the national championship.
As of right now, it is more impressive. Absolutely.
Well, especially if it keeps going, that only adds to, the mystique of this Wolf Pack team.
Even if it doesn't, what they were able to do, because to me, what makes this run so impressive is it doesn't just include the NCAA tournament. You have to talk about this run including those 5 ACC tournament games, because without those 5 games, they're not here. That is part of that run. They lost 7 out of 9 going into that Tuesday that they started playing that ACC tournament.
Don't get me wrong. The 83 team also did that, needed the ACC tournament to keep their season going, and they went and did that. But this isn't a comparison of the 83 Wolfpack and the 24 Wolfpack. Both teams are equally as impressive. NC State has captured the heart of America in their 12-point victory against Duke, which was looking rather uncertain in the first half. They got down a little bit, but just like
they really turned it on in the second half.
Just like they've proven throughout this entire run, going back into the ACC tournament, they're down, but they were never out. And Duke was very happy to play the villain, and America was very happy to see them bounced. Victory to DJ Burns over Kyle Filipowski in that battle of the big men, in which a lot of people are happy to see. I'm not quite sure DJ Burns would work out as an NFL prospect. I'm still
People are talking about it.
No, I'm still stuck on that as an April Fool's gag. There is no way that that's a real thing. I refuse to believe it. I cannot wrap my mind around that.
If the guy starts training for the NFL, I think he would probably end up being a lot heavier than 275. You could see him on a line.
But he doesn't want to. His goal is to make it to the NBA. Why is this a conversation that we're even having outside of April 1st?
Because it's fun. But here's the thing that's interesting that about this one is
I'm
you
not
saw
laughing.
the
Okay,
flip
I kind of am
side.
laughing. It is kind of
You
funny,
saw the
but like,
flip side in this matchup of how DJ Burns is able to beat you
mhm.
against Marquette. Marquette was like, we know that we are outmatched in size. We are not going to let you just get to the basket. So you saw him take like 4 shots, but get 7 assists. In this one, Duke's like, we think we can handle you one-on-one with 7-foot Filipowski. And he said, okay, bet, and put up 29 on their head.
Mhm.
So you see how he can do both sides of it. I mean, he put up 19 shots in this one. So he's super impressive. He's super fun to watch. Just seems like a super down to earth, nice guy too. So again, it's one of those guys that's just so easy to root for. And I would say in any other game other than this one, I would be rooting for him. But
Yeah, however, there is another team that's
there's
playing in
another
this
side to this
matchup.
story.
Yeah, there's two sides to every story. There's two sides to every coin. And Purdue advancing to their first Final Four since 1980?
Yes, it
1980.
is
1980?
1980.
A
44 years.
long time coming. We have the recap of Purdue and Tennessee on this channel. Tim, you hit us with
I had
that.
a blast covering that because not only just to watch that game, but I got the chance to watch that game from Mackey Arena with a whole bunch of other students from Paint Crew and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. So it was a blast of an environment, a crazy game to watch, especially how that ended up wrapping up towards the end there. So amazing, truly. So go check out that recap. I talk a lot more in depth about that game and what we saw.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you get into this a little bit in the recap at some points in time. But, there's also a personal aspect for you being a lifelong Purdue fan and just how special this truly was for that Purdue team through all the crap that they've gotten, not just in the last 3 NCAA tournaments, but truly embracing the role of the villain in this year's tournament. And
Yeah, they're loving
it,
it.
it kind of blows my mind, and I love it too. Just the amount of hate that the Purdue basketball team and Zach Edey
Crazy.
has gotten, it's nuts. But I love me a good villain. Tim, you know this, and Purdue
Oh,
has
it's so
embraced
fun.
their role like no other. It's so fun. you know
Everyone is like, DJ Burns, please save us. I'm like,
no,
guess we'll have to see.
we will have to see. And that's really the matchup in this one that everybody's going to be talking about. DJ Burns, who's not necessarily that tall, but can throw his weight around a little bit and uses that to his
He's
advantage.
275, so obviously he's a big boy. Now it's crazy to me that you
He
see him
he's
and you see Zach
25
Edey.
pounds lighter than Zach Edey,
You look at the shoe and
which
you're like, but that's just how it goes. But I think the big thing
some
I saw
people
the argument it's
some
length
people
versus width.
it's Shaq versus Yao Ming, which is an interesting
Except Shaq
comparison
was
to make.
almost as tall as Yao, just a couple of inches short. There's talk of that the fact that DJ Burns is listed as 6'9", but he could, in theory, kind of be as short as 6'7", 6'8". So
I mean, they're
regardless of
also
where he is in
saying
that range,
there are also
he's still
rumors
giving
that
up like
Zach Edey
seven,
has
8 inches of
grown.
height.
There is still rumors that Zach Edey's grown to like 7'8". I mean, again, more April Fool's jokes. Zach Edey is a very, very tall man, and Zach Edey
It
knows other sports too. But you know,
it is going to be such an interesting matchup to watch to see that how both teams try to defend against the other's strengths, and especially how they choose to manage that center matchup, because Purdue has been known in the past to double other teams' bigs. But will they, in this case, knowing the type of matchup and what DJ Burns is able to do as a passer, because he's a very capable passer, a very good passer. So there's a whole bunch we could go into that game, but we're not doing a full preview here.
no,
Um,
well, kind of. It,
I
it
could
is
go
it
on a
is
lot
like
about this matchup,
it is
but
a
I'll
preview, and
refrain from going on about 10 minutes about all the individual matchups and their role in this game.
yeah, I might fall asleep while you do that. Go do some other stuff while you ramble on. But look, if you wanted to, I have absolutely zero power to stop you, nor will I, because I know how passionate you are about your Boilers. Talk is cheap, though. Let's make some predictions. I'm not even gonna ask. I'm not even gonna do it.
I'm riding the wave. I mean, I said this in my recap of the last one. I've been waiting my whole life for this. I'm super excited
It's a hell of
to
a
watch
feeling.
this game. It is super super fun.
For
This is, I will say, this matchup is truly, it is the darlings versus the demons, basically. When it comes to the public's view, a lot of the public's view on this, like,
it's
people
the
do
Rebels
not,
versus
it's
the Evil Empire.
it's
It is.
crazy to see. It is crazy to see how much people just hate Purdue's style of basketball, which I guess I can understand. But if you hate it, stop it, I guess. Um,
What I don't understand watching Zach Edey play is how they can possibly say that A, he's just tall, and B, that he won't work in the NBA. But I mean, I'll save that opinion for people who refuse to do the research and really look into just how truly good Zach Edey is, because we've seen guys this tall in college basketball before. But because he's so dominant and the way he's done it, and because Purdue has been so good up to this point, and the fact that they're trying to shake these labels, it's made them the perfect villain. This is the perfect story in West Lafayette and on the campus of Purdue University. I can't imagine what it's like to be there on a day in and day out basis. I'm sure it's incredible,
been pretty fun.
but for me in this matchup, how in the world am I going to do this? Because it's not Edey and Burns. It's not Edey and Burns that I'm concerned about. It's everybody else on the floor. It's the supporting cast. Which supporting cast is going to show up and make the pivotal shots
Exactly what I said about Purdue, Tennessee.
in the
Connect and
biggest
Edey would
moments?
get theirs. The supporting cast is what's going to win or lose you the game. And if you look at how close that matchup was, it's exactly why Purdue won that game. Their supporting cast was just a little bit better. So
I
I totally get what you're saying. I think it's, the style of play is going to be interesting to
mhm.
see, what style each team tries to adapt. But yeah, the supporting cast is going to be what totally decides this, because I do very much believe in one way or another, both Burns and Edey are going to get theirs in some way.
So, Tim, do I go against you and go with America, or do I embrace the dark side and
Hey,
embrace the role of the villain? And
I think I think you should embrace it.
anybody who knows me knows I absolutely love the hate. I love the villain story. Purdue, Purdue,
Join
Purdue,
me on my
Purdue.
villain arc.
Um, I wouldn't exactly call it a villain arc. I'm not really sure how Purdue got to be a villain anyway, but it's a great time. I love the story. I love the adventure. I love the momentum. So I will ride the Boiler Express until they meet UConn in the national championship.
Man, I want to see that matchup more than anything
Edey
else.
and Klingon. Oh boy. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Even just the concept of the
Dude, that is
consensus top two
Godzilla
teams that
versus
teams have been
King
talking
Kong.
about.
That is what it is right there.
Yeah.
What a matchup that will be, and that is the matchup that both of us are predicting here, um, hoping it comes to fruition. So then I can hop over and we can square off in that one
Big
because
East versus Big Ten.
Big East versus Big Ten, my
Rest in peace,
conference versus
Gavitt
your con.
games.
Oh, the Gavitt games. Those are a fun time. But Tim, do you have anything else?
Hey, I mean, I'm so ready for Saturday. I'm so ready for Phoenix. I wish I could be there. Like, if I did not have quite literally the national competition for my club, I probably would have seriously tried to be there. But I'm so ready to see what this is going to look like, and it's going to be the biggest Purdue sports moment that I have ever watched and been a part of.
Of your life,
Yeah.
and what a ride it's been, like especially to cover it this season, and over the last few years. um and I will say, if Purdue does win, you better be booking a ticket to go to the national championship game. But that's all we got for our final four predictions. We may have rambled on a little bit longer than you guys like, but hey, that's what we do around here. If you want to watch our other predictions videos, we have the rest of the tournament as well as stuff leading up to the tournament. I have Butler recaps throughout the season. Tim, you obviously have your Purdue recaps. So if you want to check any of those
Still
out,
going
feel free to
strong.
do so. And if you want us to talk about anything else, let us know. But until next time, we out.